Heim time here in our Heim group studios with our new and improved comfy setup. No table, just comfy chairs. My back is happy. I'm comfortable. How are you feeling?
I love these chairs.
I also love these chairs, and I'm sure we look very professional at this time.
Maybe.
Happy November. It's November. I don't even know how that's possible. It's practically Thanksgiving. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours.
Merry Christmas as well.
Thank you. Yes. Super I'm going to call it strange, super uncomfy real estate market right now. I'm saying that he didn't know that I was going to say that, so he can have his reaction to me saying that. But right now, I don't love it. And that is possibly the general consensus. We are calling this episode Back to the Future. We should have had Michael J. Fox's picture right here. Budget, you just can't do it all.
Budget constraints in 2024.
Didn't want to do the color copier, printer, toner's a lot. Anyway, Back to the Future, and the reason that we're calling it that, or I decided to call it that, which Shannon doesn't even know, is because I think you have to look back in order to try to get a snapshot of possibly the future. As we all know, because I don't think it's possible to not know, we just had a election recently. It does not matter who your candidate was. Results occurred, as they do with elections. And I think for the most part, everyone was kind of on the edge of their seats to see how that was going to play out, and then how it's going to affect, obviously, the economy and all of the things, including real estate. So we're going to talk about that and elections in general. A few fun facts. Ooh, few fun facts. I said that and didn't even mess that up. That was impressive. Typically, historically, I didn't know this. Shout out to Lori Reed with rate.com because she sent me this information. And maybe you don't even know this. 9 out of the past 11 election years, home prices have gone up following the election. What are your thoughts since I've been doing all the talking? Do you want to contribute?
Well, I think it's I didn't know that stat, but ironically, I was looking at some reporting this morning, and home prices have jumped in October as well. Home prices have settled, but the price of homes that have sold jumped.
So here or nationwide or
on a nationwide level. Okay. So just the reporting I was looking at this morning.
Yeah, so that was surprising to me, and I think it's also something, and like I said, we're going to dive into some years past, going back to the future. I think it's important for viewers, for those that may get into the market thinking about jumping in, to just kind of have that information. We're going to take a deep dive into sales during different times with the elections, and also what interest rates looked like then. A couple other quick things to note, though. Oops, which is on my phone. Let's see. From October to November, which we're in November now, home sales decreased by 9.8% in a typical year. However, in an election year, it's 15%. So that makes sense because... Why does that make sense? You're nodding.
Well, a little bit of, uncertainty in the market is what we're seeing, right? I don't know if it's just we're getting older, or it's just seems like election cycles are more polarized now than ever. But the great thing is that after November 5th of this year, November 6th happened, and we're all still friends. For the most part, people are, but got your outliers on both sides. But the market will continue to go on, and time will go on.
To add on to that, and the question, and what we already been sort of talking about, in election years, the market slows. This time of year, the market also slows. Home sales decreased by, 9.8% in a typical year. And in an election year, they decreased by 15%.
Is that this year or average over?
It's this It doesn't tell me. No, that's overall. That's an average. It says that this particular year, 23% of first-time buyers are waiting until after the election to buy. Which that leads me to another. Do you want to comment on that? Because I also have something interesting to share too.
Mm-mm.
So, waiting, and we're going to talk some about waiting just overall, but for every percentage that interest rates drop, 5 million come back into the market. I'll say that again. For every percent that rates go down, 5 million people show back
In the
up
market.
to purchase, which is startling because then lots of things can
Yeah.
happen.
Well, you were talking earlier around home prices jumping right after an election. So there's probably a correlation between that, right? You have so many people on the fence that are sitting there. And then you have an influx. So whenever an influx happens, basic economics, right? Supply demand. Demand goes up a little bit when supply goes down. So you
Sure.
have this fluctuation there
Yeah.
around those pieces. So
And ultimately, and we're going to deep dive, like I mentioned before, and we'll do a wrap up, but this isn't to be a, oh my gosh, please jump in type conversation. This is just knowledge, because knowledge is
Yeah.
power. It's not always the right time to buy. There's every individual, family, whoever, their situation is different. The conversation is different. So certainly not saying, let's go right now.
correct.
Just taking a deeper look. Okay, so Back to the Future. We are going to begin with
And my Vanna White and my
You
flipping.
Are Vanna White today in our fancy.
It's high tech. We're high
It
tech
is
here.
high tech. Is it coming across on the screen? Is my foot in the way, Krista? Okay, awesome. So 2008. I said that with like a deep breath because I know that was an interesting year. It was an election year, and then also things happened. Large things happened in 2008. Do you want to talk about those? Because you are so good at all of the floating
Well,
around
it was the
knowledge.
beginning. Well, not really the beginning. It was the tipping point of, one of the greatest economic downturns in our history, or the
Yes.
greatest economic downturn.
Yes.
Some say worse than the Great Depression. So there was a big adjustment in the market. And a lot of it has to do with housing and loans and all that stuff. But I think the great thing that came out of that was, you got not that regulation's a great thing, but you got more structure around loans and protections for consumers and everything that goes along with that. So
yeah, 2008, it wasn't as difficult, or prior, I guess,
5,
to
6, 7, and then
obtain a
8.
loan.
Yeah.
And then it all started to, or it did, crash in 2008. I was very young. I don't remember. Just kidding. I'm going to pretend I was very young. Okay, so as I mentioned at the start, 9 out of the last 11 election years, not including this one, prices did increase following that year. So 2008 was actually one of the years, which makes sense. Prices went down. So average house price, not here, but just nationwide, 2008 was 196,600. I remember those numbers. And then in 2009, so following the election, no idea who was in office. You probably know because you love those things. I do not. 172,100. So it went down following that election year. And interest rates at the time, because like we said, we're taking a deep dive and going back to the future. So brace yourselves. Interest rates in 08, on average, looking at the full year, were 6.03. So right now we are in the high sixes ish. We're not lenders, so we're not going to quote what you could get as an interest rate. We know some great lenders though. Sixes ish. Heavy on the ish maybe right now. So,
Well, according to the Federal Reserve, Fred, as of the 14th, the interest rate was 7.78.
wait, the
I'm sorry,
14th?
6.78.
I was going to say, what?
6.7.
Last year, it is important to note that last year, so this is some good news. Um, last year at this
Mm-hmm.
time, so November of 2023, we're around 7.44. So yay, six ish. Doesn't seem as bad. And in 2008, as we know, it was 6.03 on average. So, number of homes sold in the US in 2008 was just over 4 million homes. So
Do you
we have
know?
this, what?
Do you know what it was at the peak?
The peak of what?
The last 10 years.
How many homes have sold or the peak?
It was about 6.3
Yeah,
million
I have
homes.
that. We're going to talk through it.
Oh shoot!
Stop
Oh,
rushing time,
sorry.
Shannon. We're only in
Sorry.
'08.
Oh,
You don't
I'm
know
sorry.
anything yet.
I prefer Marty McFly. If you call me Marty McFly for the rest of this.
You got the vest, like
I
the
do have the
puffy
vest.
vest thing happening. So little
That's not
hover,
puff. That's a little bit of that's a little internal puff right there.
little hoverboard moment, and we're
I don't
set.
think I don't think that hoverboard would hover if I got on it.
Anyway, all right. So 2008, then 2009. I already kind of mentioned that
You're taking my job.
Oh, I apologize. I'm just multitasking over here like I do. That home prices went down in 2009, and the total number of homes sold actually did increase. It was over the 2008 mark. Not by much. I don't have the exact number, but the little graph I have shows a slight increase. So, by
Good job.
like, it increased by like this much, guys. Which is probably like a couple 100,000. Just, it's fine. All right, so moving right along. Next election year, 2012.
2012.
I, again, was very young. You probably
Or just didn't pay attention.
you probably remember the names of all. Yeah.
Not all of them, but
Okay. So, do you
Move
want to
forward.
share if you remember 2012? Okay, that's
we're
fine.
good.
All right, so 2012, it was a year that following the election, home prices did increase. In 2012, the average home price across the U.S. was 177,200. And
So
number,
just for reference, in 2009 they were 172.
yeah,
So we've only had a slight increase
yes,
on average nationwide in those years. So really some flat years, if you would,
sure.
through it. So
It would be interesting if, we were wanting to look at our particular area to see. Because when I do talk with potential buyers and just those who are new to our area, based on the information that I was given, our area here, and we've discussed this before, we're somewhat in a bubble of protection with
a
our
little
home
insulation, yeah.
values.
For those who don't know, military installation, you have a lot of industry coming in. We're in Tennessee, where it's a
Yes.
so we've been insulated with some stuff.
And the proximity to Nashville
Proximity to
is a huge
Nashville.
piece as well.
Yep.
So yes, but good to note that 172 in 2009, only 177 3 years later. So, fun fact. Homes sold in 2012 were higher than in 2009 and also in 2008. So, like 4.5 million or so. Moving on to 2013. Home prices went up to 197,400. So if you are just good with numbers, that is basically right where they were in 2008, right at that 190, middle 190s. So went up about 20 grand or went up 20 grand. So prices did increase. And as a result, which the graph indicates, we will post the picture of the graph for those of you that want to see the, chart.
We'll reference in the links.
It did increase. So almost a little over 4.5 million, probably a 200-ish thousand number increase, but it did go up as far as the number of homes that were sold. So, and the rate, did I share that? The interest rate. In 2012, the interest rate average was 3.66. And in 2013, when home sales increased, home prices increased, the interest rate increased as well, 3.98 on average. Now, we all miss the threes so much. So certainly still an excellent rate. We can talk about rates in our wrap up, but threes again would be lovely. No? No. Shannon says no.
I don't think it'll ever get there again.
I don't either. However, I'm like, glass is more than half full.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's just based on. I'm not a lender. I'm not,
sure.
Mr. Powell and his team.
We don't have a crystal ball.
No
Again,
crystal ball or
budget.
anything there,
I don't know
so.
how much crystal balls cost, but we
Yeah,
don't have one.
out of our budget.
Oh,
so.
we could get one of those magic 8 balls and just
could.
all our decisions.
We could.
Which isn't there like it's been a minute since I had one of those, but isn't there like a middle of the line, like a maybe option? That would probably be always what
I don't know.
came up for me. Yeah. Yeah, check back later. There you go. Yeah.
So let's jump to 2016.
2016, okay.
What happened there?
Another election year. This is good. Good relative. Home prices went up to 235,500. So that's again average home price across the U.S. And interest rate in 2016 was 3.65 on average. So they went down from 2013 to 3.65. So that means they likely hovered. We're not talking hoverboards. We're not talking about each and every year, but I would venture to say they probably hung out for a bit in those 30s.
Yeah, if you look at the Federal Reserve site, right, it has every month broken down, and it's pretty interesting for us that like numbers and nerding out and data, but it fluctuates around that, and it's just a correction around what's going on in the economy over those years, with things like that. So when you see the prices that increased right earlier, where your interest rate went up to 3.98, right? That's the Federal Reserve saying, okay, we're starting to see some traction in the economy, housing, and housing is always a lead indicator around whether you're in a recession or whether you're in a which way you're going in your market. It's always a leading indicator. If your home prices pick up, or home values or home sales pick up, then you're coming out of that recession. If you're and nobody likes to use that word now, but that's part of the indicator there, where it's kind of just hovering around there. And then historically speaking, if you look at, you saw your dip in 2008 and then slowly ticking back up, but you'll see a 4% correction. If you look from like 1970 to current day, you see like a 4% curve on home appreciation values.
Okay.
Per
year. Isn't that
it's a
3
curve?
to 4%?
Yeah, it is. But you'll see corrections right in the market where it dropped. Right now, we've seen where home values have jumped a little bit, but in the last few months they softened. Right, some markets more than here in Clarksville,
right.
Middle Tennessee in general, just because again we're one of the states people want to move to, not move away from.
Mm-hmm.
Or all the other factors, right? Jobs coming in, types of jobs, all that stuff. So,
yeah,
plays a factor.
Absolutely. So yes, in 2016, the number of homes that sold was more than in 2012, 2013. Still in that 4 million ish range, but it was more than those previous years. 2017, slightly more than 2016, and home prices did go up from 235 to 248 across the country, and interest rates also went up. We've got an average for interest rates of 3.99. However, important to note that during times of that year, they were in the 4s. They dipped into the 4s.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah, they jump low 4s, 4.25, 4.5. That kind of stuff. Yeah, where they were jumping up a little bit.
Right. So we're seeing the trend. So home prices are increasing and rates are increasing in the years following elections. 2020. Here we are. It's a good year. Just kidding.
My glasses look cool on when I oops, sorry. Sorry, my 2020 glasses, And
Oh, yeah. I was like, what glasses are you talking about? 2020, a year.
my New Year's Eve glasses, that's what I'm looking for.
We may all want to.
It's hot in this room. So.
The year we may all want to forget. But 2020 was also an election year. And other things happened in 2020 that we won't talk about. Home prices across the country went up by like 50 grand, 296,700 average price in 2020, and rates 3.10 on average, and home sold more than all of the years that we've discussed.
What was it at that year?
In 2020,
Yeah.
4.7-ish, slightly higher than 2017, but hadn't crossed into the 5 million units yet.
What about
It's coming.
2021?
It's coming, and now we're here.
Right. We're jumping into anomalies. Everybody knows COVID happened. Your correction in the market. There's a lot of stuff that happened from March of 2020 till the beginning of 2021, just
Mm-hmm.
because of everything that happened in the world. So, kind of got to take these with a different mindset with the data points you're
Sure.
getting.
Which is why we're taking sort of a deep dive, and I don't exactly know what's going to happen at the end of this. I just decided we're going to take a closer look and then figure out what we think. Again, no crystal ball here, just looking at patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID certainly did throw a
Curveball
curveball in the patterns.
of everything.
Yes, and we could have a whole entire conversation about that with regards to values and all of the things. We won't go there because
It's
this
a whole nother episode.
is like that could be a whole series.
Yeah.
It's fine. So 2021 home prices jumped by $54,000. So all of a sudden, average home price was in the threes. It was actually 350,000. We felt that, saw that. Aftermath of COVID and the low rates when there's a number 2 in front of interest rates probably will never happen again, safe to say, in my lifetime, our lifetime.
Probably not.
Okay.
Well, how many homes were sold in 2021?
In 2021, we 6.2 million.
And at the beginning in 08, we were at what?
We were at 4.2. So 2 million more houses sold.
Definitely a strain on the system with everything. So
Right. And interesting to note, too, the interest rate in 08, just looking back, was 6.03 on average. So quite a difference comparing that. And home prices different as well. Values go up. We know that happens. Yeah, so big jump on value there, and also the interest rate went down to 2.96 on average. It was at 3.1 in 2020, so went down a little bit. But 2, I don't know, we could talk about the 2s. There's a whole, we mentioned it a little bit in our kind of chatting before.
yeah,
And the 2% interest rate. And if you are someone fortunate enough to hop in the market at a 2% interest rate, likely you're sitting on some
equity.
good equity.
Yeah, if you bought a house more than 3 years ago, right, or even 2, I mean, just the way
Sure.
the market is, you're sitting on equity with that stuff, and you know there's I think the national average, one number I heard was about $60,000 is a national average, and one I heard it's like over $100,000 of equity. So I don't have a total number on that, but you know, more than we've ever had. So, and I'll kind of go into some other stuff when we're done running
Sure.
through this.
Yeah,
but,
and some variables there depending
Yeah.
on when you hopped in the market and if, because at that point sellers weren't having to do much. We didn't even sometimes get a sign in the yard,
Yep.
and the house was gone. So you had to, in many instances, pay above. We'll talk about that somewhat too, just in our looking ahead. But
Yeah. So 2024, what do we got?
we don't
Coming-
have
coming
anything
into this
yet
year.
because, well, our interest rate currently, which I think we talked about, 6.62, so 6 point ish. I think you said 6.8. Last year, 7, middle 7s.
Yeah.
So we've come down some.
Middle to high 7s.
As we mentioned kind of in the start, 23% of potential buyers were holding off. And in this particular election year, typically it's 15%. So more than usual. And you want to say why you believe that is?
Yeah.
You should.
We should look at the year ahead too.
We are going to look at the year ahead. And also, I have some info on that as well. Go on.
So, one of the things that I had a recent conversation with a lender in a meeting, and it was, you know, something to look at with, you know, a lot of people are sitting on, or trying to walk through. Do I sell my house? Do I not sell your house? Whatever. And I'm always like, hey, if you want to hold it, hold it. If not, don't. But one of the interesting points that I was actually watching C-SPAN.
I don't know what I was talking about when you said C-SPAN. I just know I was going to say I've never started a sentence with this morning while watching C-SPAN.
C-SPAN's a thing,
What
and
does
I was actually
C-SPAN
watching.
even
I was
mean?
actually
What does that stand
I
for?
was actually talk. Oh, shit, I used to know this one too. Anyway,
We'll fact check that and put it in the
Congress.
comments.
Anyway, but it's really be called Congress spam. But move on from that. But
Oh, that's terrible and funny.
bad joke. But on that, I was actually watching TikTok, and
Better.
one of the things I was watching on there was they were talking about consumer debt overall, talking to um, Visa and Mastercard, and just some stuff. But the points that I pulled out of there was, consumer debt right now is highest it's ever been on credit cards. $1.17 trillion, I think, is what the number was on there. Um, we have equity in homes, right? More than we've ever had. So it's this pendulum swing that, on both sides you have this. But, what I thought about in that was, you know, people were like, well, I can't sell my house because I'm at a 2% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. What does that look like? But what is that? Are those individuals, right, in that consumer debt where their house might be at a 2.5%, but their credit cards are the average is 27% right now in the U.S.
Yikes.
It's insane.
Right?
It's a 10% swing, I think, in 5 years. So sorry to nerd out on that, but like that's a huge piece to say.
Sure.
What does that combined interest rate look like, and what we call servicing your debt. Like how much is it to actually service that debt versus what you're walking away with. So, if you're thinking about selling your house or whatever, it's just I'm going through this too with myself, family members, clients. Just it's just walking through that to go, okay, what actually makes sense at this point to eliminate all this debt I'm carrying
Sure.
versus what I have in my house and the equity. How can I play with those numbers?
Mm-hmm.
We talked off camera earlier around doing a HELOC or home equity
Right.
line of credit on a house. Home equity line of credits are great, but the dirty secret on those is that the number that if you consolidate all your debt and they say, hey, your payment's $700 a month, that number in most cases is the interest just to carry it. So if you pay that minimum payment, your debt's not moving a dime.
Right.
So you got to factor that number in there to say, okay, if I consolidate my debt down and I do a HELOC on the house and I run that out for 10 years, what does that look like? And then the discipline on the back end on the consumer side of the debt,
Don't
right, is,
accrue
is
more.
this. So not to go down this rabbit hole, but like that's the thought process I go through. Like, how does
Right.
that look for an individual? And for every individual, it's going to look different.
Sure. And we've had lots of sellers this year in particular, I feel like, that do have some substantial equity, did
Yeah.
have some substantial equity and made the decision to sell because at that moment they have $100,000+ possible to hit their bank account and affect them in huge ways, right? Pay off the car. Those are all going up in price. Pay off the credit card debt, like you're mentioning. I mean, certainly a decision that you have to do what's best for you.
In that
And
moment, right?
right, we aren't experts in that field, but value in kind of discussing it. I think I'm just playing the other side, right? If I was like sitting on a 2% it would be really hard if I didn't have to sell. Like I think the mindset too, I would
Right.
venture to say is, oh my gosh, I can't sell. Even if that would help me debt wise, I really shouldn't. I can't sell. It's never going to be at 2% again. And then
Right.
you play that out, and yes, maybe you've taken the stress away. Then you got to figure out where you're living next, and that's
Right. Yeah, and how much that, right, what the cost is associated with that, what's that play, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we both have had clients, and I've had clients that, and where we're at here in Middle Tennessee and Clarksville, and as is Montgomery County, in surrounding area is, we said it earlier, right? It's a little bit different of a market where we have, one of the largest military posts in the country,
Right.
at our doorstep where we have the turn of the military that comes in for 3 or 4 years and leaves. I got a couple friends that across the street from me. I've sat down with them in the first question. They're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling my house," and I know they've owned their houses since the flashback of Marty McFly driving through the time, but it's 2014, 2015 when they bought these houses, and it's my first question is, are you coming back? And
Right.
if they even hesitate and say yes, my first initial reaction is, don't sell your house
Right.
because you'll never get into that for the price that you were in there, right? The best time to always buy a house, as the old cliche goes, is 5 years ago.
Sure. We all should have bought three
Oh, I
or
should have
four
bought.
of
Damn,
them
I should have bought five
in
years ago.
2021.
Damn, I should have bought 5 years ago. No matter what it is,
Yep.
and in 2020 or 2030, people are gonna go, "Damn, I should have bought a house in 2014 or 2024, 2025." Right? It's what is that time to get into the market, and you can always adjust. There's different programs out there. You can do 3-2-1 buy downs. You can do, 2-1 buy downs. You can do, discount points, all that stuff to move into the houses, which people are doing, right?
Right.
And that piece there is a big part of it. But to wrap back down to the consolidated piece, it's what is the actual debt that you're carrying. Don't just look at that number and go, it's 2.5% or 3%, the number that I'm at, and what is my long term goal.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about how does that journey work for you.
Sure. And your own personal situation too. Certainly getting some breathing room. I've done it in the past, right? Refinance or take out a home equity line of credit so I can breathe again with my monthly obligations. And yes, it does make you kind of feel sick. Like, oh, I just put my credit card bill on a 30-year, whatever. You got to do what you need to do in your situation.
Yeah.
And age wise too, right? I mean, younger couple being able to put, which I helped many this last year, 100 grand in the bank.
Mhm.
That's life changing. Will they ever in their lifetime get to a 2% again? Likely no. Will they get to a 4? Yes. Will home prices be higher based on what we've seen?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so yeah, it's all just kind of, and like you alluded to, and I do the same thing when someone contacts me about selling, we have that conversation. Again, we're not like financial advisors by any means. However, like, do you want me to run some numbers on what the rental rates look like right now? We aren't property managers, and I always preface that. However, rents, you and I were talking about this earlier off camera, rental prices have gone up too. So if you've purchased in 2014, 2015, you got an interest rate and 2% in 2021, likely you are able to rent your house out for more than what your payment is. And if you are able, if it looks, for your situation to hang on to that and have someone else paying your mortgage,
Mhm.
yay, you.
Yeah.
And that's just building up your generational wealth and
Yeah.
portfolio
Uh,
portfolio and all those
uh,
things. Not doesn't always work for everyone.
Yeah. I had a gentleman yesterday, past client of mine. We've been talking through stuff over the last few years. He's purchased a house here, moved to Kentucky, purchased a house there, actually duplex, and he's VA, right? So he's moving around doing
Hmm.
doing doing the right things. And the conversation now is he wants to buy, he wants to get into a quad or 4 unit building, right? And working through time frames, working with a lender, talking him through that. But one of the parts of that conversation was the house that he bought in 2017.
Hmm.
Go back in time, right?
Yeah.
That he purchased there. He's renting that out and making a substantial amount of money. And he's like, well, if I sell that, I said, here's your scenarios. Either wait until X date, you could sell this one, go 6 months earlier, or you could hold that house for 6 more months, or hold for 6 more months, and buy everything, keep everything that you have sustained, and then it'll free up everything, right? The numbers play out, it'll free up everything for him to continue on with purchase. And I said, my exact words were to him, I will not let you sell that house.
Now, Shannon, just a side note, you cannot prevent anyone from
It's
selling. So he didn't mean it that
because I like, not to sound,
you were like a bully.
it's not achieving his goal. It's not
Sure.
helping him achieve his goal of what he wants to do.
Sure.
My exact words were, sure, I'll sell the house any day for you. I make money when
You're
that
very
happens, right?
conscious. you would not
But
advise.
but I can't because that's not his goal, and I'm not going to let him short himself. The cash flow he's currently making out of that house, the
Right.
equity he has built into it. There's different ways to play with that money to go buy more assets
Mm-hmm.
and put that in there. Maybe have a little less cash flow for the first 5 years or so, but the long term play is cash flow, retirement, all the things
Sure.
that are there for an income stream revenue.
Right.
Talk through, not to go down the rabbit hole, but talk through, you know, do you have a separate account set up for your rental properties? No, I don't. Okay, cool. Now we need to separate that out, right? Again, not an advisor, but these are just experiences that I've learned through my career in real estate, our
Mm-hmm.
career in real estate, and also personal experience owning property through
Right.
time. It's how do you separate that stuff out so that when you do file your taxes, how are we saving the most amount of money? Moving things around with that, working with a good CPA or a tax attorney to
Absolutely.
help mitigate your paying into Uncle Sam because we pay them enough money. We don't need to pay them anymore.
Very true.
So that's my soapbox on that piece. But
Well, it's good. And again, like we've said many times in here, it's a conversation. Start a conversation. We're not, like you said, financial planners, tax advisors, property managers, none
yeah,
of those things. We are just also people who are trying to figure it out too
yeah,
and what that looks like.
yeah. I think you said it, and we'll wrap it up here. Is that no matter what market we're in, no matter what's going on in the world, sit down and have the conversation. We've never tricked anybody into buying or selling their house,
Absolutely not.
or getting into the market or what that looks like. It's just making sure that you have the conversation. You start
Yes.
that. If it's not us, if you're not local, reach out to us. We're licensed in Tennessee and Kentucky, but outside of that, we could find good agents for you and people that share our same mindset on that stuff. Where it's
Mhm.
not just sell your property, sell your
Sure.
property, sell your property.
And just to wrap it up, too, we took a look at the past to try to figure out the future, which if we were able to go forward, because isn't there an episode? It's been a minute, y'all, since I watched Back to the Future. Doesn't he go
You just go into the
forward
future.
in like the third one?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we were able to go there and then relay back what we see, we certainly would for our viewers. Predictions, the statistic said about 4.6 million homes to be sold this year. The prediction is 5.2 next year. Again, no one knows. Interest rates in all of these uh, scenarios that we looked at with election years and the year following typically have gone up. Let's hope they don't go up next year. Um, it is possible that home prices will, and that's, we could go down a whole other conversation with regards to that. My question to you, because you were watching C SPAN,
TikTok.
you enjoy watching things with numbers. What is the prediction? Because certainly, if home prices are going to go up, please tell me that rates are going to go down.
Well, I think that watching the last month's meeting or the meeting earlier this month with Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve and everything with that is that they lowered interest rates. It's been lowered 75 basis points since a quarter ago.
Hmm.
But that's not a consumer rate. That's a that's not the rate that directly reflects
Yes.
mortgages, car loans, all that stuff. There's two different plays there, which is a misconception that people have, including myself as I was reading more.
So looking ahead to 2025, no one knows exactly what it's going to be. Cannot travel forward in time like they did in Back to the Future. So to be determined, and we will continue this conversation. Experts, those that are in this field, predict 5.2 million homes to be sold in 2025.
Yep.
We shall see. And gigantic question mark next to the predicted interest rate.
Yep.
I'm voting for down.
A little bit. I think you'll see an anomaly in it because you're ticking down because you have to.
We
Right?
have to. They have to. Whoever
There's
it is that decides this
there-
needs to give us breathing room. I'm
there's
sorry.
three
Go.
things in there's three things in play, right? And you got wages, you got interest rates, and you got the actual price of the home. And interest rate affects the price of the home more than a lot of people realize on that. Right? If I got a $500,000 house and my interest rate goes from a 7 to a 6,
Your payment is
yeah,
significantly
you're
changed.
going from being able to afford,
Right.
it's 10% more house. So if I can only afford a $450,000 house at 7% and it goes down to 6%, I now can afford a $500,000 house.
You should purchase one. You just
Doesn't mean should purchase one, but that's just the correlation of like just the attainability of
right.
what your
The
range is and
increase, which is how we
what it
started
has on
this
the payment.
conversation anyway, meaning 5 million more people come into the market every time a percentage
Which is why,
goes down. So that absolutely makes sense. And then there's a that triggers other things to happen.
yeah,
So,
snowball effect on the market, supply and
yeah,
demand. But
right.
well, I appreciate you putting this together and asking me questions today and talking through this. I
Graphic.
like it. I like our high tech stuff. That's
This
good.
was, yes,
Hey,
it served its purpose. This
go
is the past teacher in me.
go simple, right? Go simple, and we're good to go. But stay tuned for more episodes of the Heim Time here to wrap up 24 and into year
25.
2025.
Once again, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Have a great week.